Hey everyone, it's been about a week. This is essentially part 2 of my coverage on the GT302. Essentially the build is complete now. This is not a standard build. I think in the past couple of days and in the next couple of days, you're going to be seeing a lot of traditional media outlets that you guys may pay attention to start posting this. You're going to see them all pretty much at the AIOs. So I wanted to do something dramatically different, given this channel and given my build style is not basic. Nothing wrong with basic, but it's a good opportunity to do something different. So for those of you who didn't watch my first video, this is the ASUS GT302 BTF. It's called BTF because ASUS has something called Back to the Future, where it's a kind of a pun, but essentially everything, all the wires run in the back for I/O and everything like that. I will show you guys the back so you guys can kind of understand what's going on here, but that also right away addresses the issue of why you do not see any power cables going to the GPU, because the GPU is being powered by the motherboard. That is unique to ASUS, and you will see other GPUs later down the line supporting this. For example, the 4090 Strix BTF, which was shown off at CES. Okay, so let's real quick go into the case here and some of the things I've done. When I last made a video on this case, I talked about some of the potential pitfalls of fitting a front radiator, and also the issue where you could see your wires through the PSU cover, right? So those are some things I tackled while doing this build. So right off the bat, I did put a 420 radiator in the front. This is with 25mm thick, pointing down, with the endtanks pointing down. If the endtanks were pointing up, obviously I would not be able to do this tubeless look. So that's why they're pointing down. Now, to get them to point down, you need to be able to have the front fan slots to be adjustable. In their default position, you could only have the endtanks pointing up, right? Because you need more space to adjust. And that is one of the downfalls in this case, where the front holes, if I come here, they are predetermined to be exactly where they are, and they're not adjustable. This is the same thing that's in the PA 602, which is the ProArt case. I kind of wish that they would have also not had that configuration on the ProArt case. I would like to see ASUS in the future have adjustable rails in the front for the fans, and also include 360 mount holes as well as 140. On the PA 602, I think it's a 180mm fan, and the holes are only there for 100mm fans. So that would be a nice addition. But you have to remember, this case comes with 4 140mm, 28mm thick ARGB fans. And since my last video, I can tell you guys how much this case costs. This case is going to come in at $150. At $150, you get 4 ARGB fans, pre-wired in terms of, wire management. And that is a pretty darn good deal, considering you get 4 fans, ARGB, 140, and you get a fairly sturdy and, this is a very sturdy case. What I didn't cover last time was these 2 screws are removable, allowing you to pull the top radiator cover out, and then you can mount your AIO fans and then put it back in and screw the 2 screws back in. So that's something I didn't cover last time that I discovered when I was building in this case. So for the price point, I think it's pretty amazing. It does use a slightly thicker steel than most cases. I think it comes in at about, let's see, I didn't measure it, but I know it's about 1mm thicker than most other steel cases on the market, which gives it this extremely good rigidity. Even when I pulled the top part, this whole top panel, holding the fans off, the case still felt extremely rigid, which is very good to see at that price point. All right, so going back to what I've done in the build here, I first made the modification so I can have the radiator point down. This would allow me to run tubes underneath the PSU cover. And I've also used the Modern Cafe stealth block, so I don't have any tubes in the front. I can't show you how this one works exactly because it's installed, but I do have a Bitspower variant known as the Bitspower Revo, which I will show you guys so you guys can have an understanding of how this block works. The Bitspower Revo is essentially the Modding Cafe block. It is version 5 of his block that he's done for Bitspower. But moving on, to address the PSU issue, I created a distro that goes, it's not a distro, it's just a reservoir. I created a reservoir with the TUF logo. It's a little hard to see, but it's still a little bubbly too. This has the TUF logo inside, and it has the BTF, and this is my reservoir. And down on the bottom here, I'm gonna bring the camera view down here. I have a screen. This is a USB based screen. It is displaying the TUF animation, branding reasons, and also the GPU and CPU temp. As I've said many times, I am a fan of USB based screens. You'll notice I do not have anything plugged in display wise. This is the way to do your screens, guys. Not using an HDMI cable running out to that. That is tacky. I mean, it's easy to do, but like I said before, you can run into a lot of issues with display, games running on the small screen instead, losing your mouse, all that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to look into this, just Google search Touring Screen Python. I'll put a link to the GitHub. I definitely recommend not, they do sell these screens on Amazon. They come in 5.5, 2.1, and 8.8. But I do not recommend you using the software simply because it's, you know, random Chinese software. I wouldn't trust it. So I'll put a link to the GitHub in the comments, not the comments, but the description, so you guys can take a look into that. Parts wise, 4070 Ti Super, Z790 BTF. Also, these are Patriot Viper TUF Alliance memory. And that pretty much sums up all the parts I have here. So now let's get into the magic of the back. Oh yeah, I did cut a cover piece on the back with some, you know, TUF design vinyl cut just to kind of fill that empty space. Unfortunately, because number one, this PSU is not that long and we no longer have 24-pin cables running this way, we do have that issue where, you know, we have this blank space. And I think that for future BTF cases, well, the hard part is you can't really make the case narrower, right? In terms of, not narrower, but like in terms of length, make it shorter, because then you run into issues supporting a longer GPU. This is not a long GPU. This is a 4070 Ti Super compared to a Strix, which will go all the way over here. It's two different things. But yeah, so I mean, that's one of the struggles of kind of this BTF look. Although I don't think a 24-pin wire is going to make it look that much less empty. I think that the right-hand side emptiness is just a symptom of having extremely long GPUs these days. All right, so moving on to the back. So you'll notice right away, this is the rear part of the block. The way it works is, I'll show you guys on the Revo in a second. The way it works is the mounts for the block itself are little tubes that pass through into this side, and then the water runs down these slim channels and then comes out kind of like any other block. And that's how it works. You get 6 locations. Obviously, one side is dedicated in, one side is dedicated out. Now, I know Bitspower did do a video on this block many months ago, but the guy who makes this block, he has a business called Modding Cafe. He started making the block well before Bitspower even did a video. And Bitspower did a video on version 1. This is essentially a couple versions down, and he's using the Optimus cold plate now. He's also done a direct die version. So there's a lot of customizations. I'll put a link to his Facebook if you guys want to hit him up to try to get the block. He will have to ship him in Vietnam, so the cost of shipping is going to be a little high. But moving on, you see that I use soft tubing. I should have sleeved it. I didn't have the big white sleeving, so unfortunately it's just black ZMT. These are stock PSU cables. It's really, so you'll notice right away, this is the rear part of the block. The way it works is, I'll show you guys on the Revo in a second. The way it works is the mounts for the block itself are little tubes that pass through into this side, and then the water runs down these slim channels and then comes out kind of like any other block. And that's how it works. You get 6 locations. Obviously, one side is dedicated in, one side is dedicated out. Now, I know Bitspower did do a video on this block many months ago, but the guy who makes this block, he has a business called Modding Cafe. He started making the block well before Bitspower even did a video. And Bitspower did a video on version 1. This is essentially a couple versions down, and he's using the Optimus cold plate now. He's also done a direct dye version. So there's a lot of customizations. I'll put a link to his Facebook if you guys want to hit him up, try to get the block. He will have to ship him in Vietnam, so the cost of shipping is going to be a little high. But moving on, you see that I use soft tubing. I should have sleeved it. I didn't have the big white sleeving, so unfortunately it's just black ZMT. Here's a drain port. You attach another fitting on the other end and you slide it in and you can drain. So, and this is just an air valve. I do have a lot of air bubbles still, and this just kind of helps by pressing it down. So that you'll notice that, you know, the fans are on the back, UPS on the back, all the I/O is on the back, everything. Now, this brings an additional challenge. So if you'll notice that I don't have the USB 3 connected. Reason being is it's not 90-degree connector. So if I plugged it in, I have a really hard time closing the door. And that's one other thing where I think some of the, any company looking into creating BTF cases, they might want to consider either a flexible kind of like a bend it into a 90, or some type of adjustable I/O where, you know, not everything's just sticking up anymore. Like you notice if I had 90-degree 24 pin, 90-degree 8 pins, everything would be a lot more flush, and I wouldn't need a taller depth either on the case door. And that's one of the considerations. I think that, you know, growing pains, right? This is kind of a new concept that can be flushed out in the future. I mean, for things like fan headers, not a big deal, but for these even the 8 pins okay, but the 24 pin, even if I had a 16 pin, would be impossible without a 90-degree 16 pin. Simply because, you know, that kind of bend will definitely wreck those small pins. So that's why I chose to use the 3x8s. I didn't use a 16 pin, simply because it cannot do that kind of bend radius. And I did not have a 90-degree 16 pin on hand to do that. Even if I used an adapter, the adapter would be too tall for me to close the door. Right, so there's the rear. So now you guys know how that works. I'm going to quickly go over the Bitspower Revo block. Okay, just to kind of show you guys how this block, a little more detail on how this block works. Okay, so what you're seeing here on the rear is essentially this piece, right? You'll notice that these ports right here, they have holes in them, right? And you can see they direct channel into the cutout, the run on the inside. And the way it works is, on the other side of the block, you're going to have, you're going to have these posts, right? These posts have a tube going through them. And what's happening is this part is going into here. And that right there is how the water goes in from the front to the rear. See? I don't know how that comes across camera. So when we take the block itself, this is the Bitspower version. I know this is up for pre-order at Bitspower. I have kind of a prototype, so it's not final. That's why I'm not using it, because there's some adjustments that need to be made. But you can see this part goes onto this side, and then this side, there's an O-ring in here. So don't think that there's no O-ring in there. And that comes in together like that. And that's how water feeds from this channel in the front through the tube into the rear. And that's how these block works. Okay. So yeah, the Bitspower one, the polish is amazing. It's flame polished, obviously. And the Bitspower one, you get a tinted cover. There's a film on here, but it's a tinted black cover. I kind of wish they will make silver or some type of template so you can print your own. but that's essentially how the block works. Okay, so for those of you wondering, now you know. Other than that, that pretty much wraps it up for my video. If you want to know more about my initial impressions, you can watch my other video when I first unboxed the items. But yeah, just to summarize, I would say from the price point, the case is really hard to beat at $150 with the 4 fans. They were hoping to bring a variant without the fans for less money, $40 less. Frankly, if you were doing an air build, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't use the stock fans. They're actually really good, so there's no reason not to use the stock fans. If you are going to do something in this case and you're buying into the BTF, I would say get a good air cooler. Reason being is it's meant to look like you have no wires, right? So if I have an AIO and I have 2 tubes going all the way to the block over there, it kind of defeats, it just looks like anything else minus a 24 pin, right? So if you want to do something truly unique, you don't want to do water cooling, you want to do all this, that's fine. Just use an air cooler. I mean, they're just as good as, high-end liquid coolers these days if you get a really nice one. And you can still do something that looks super clean. I think this is, the whole BTF lineup is an opportunity to kind of do new things. And this is what I try to do here. And with that said, thanks for watching. Stay safe and take care.